Eastlands, the region of the city of Nairobi, east of the city center. This is the older part of the city, Nairobi, East Africa's largest city. Positioned over 1600 meters above sea level, Nairobi in the early 1900s started as a train depot where materials from the Mombasa-Kisumu railway line were stored. As the town grew, Nairobi later became the capital of the then colonial government of Kenya. In those days, Nairobi residents were divided by race into different sections of the city. Most of the Africans who resided in the city worked in the factories, for the railway companies, and in the homes and business establishments of the European settlers and the Asian merchants situated within the central business districts and the suburbs north and west of the city. The Africans, on the other hand, lived on the east end of the city, where pre-independence urban African neighborhoods of the city still stand today. The colonial government designed and constructed the African housing with 1 or 2 rooms. This was to discourage the typically large African family to fully migrate into the city. So if one member of the family got a job, they could not move the entire family from the rural ancestral home into the city. This way, the colonial government controlled the rural-urban migration and restricted the movement of the African. In those days, there were almost no informal settlements within the city precincts. The neighborhoods today include Mudhurwa, Makongeni, Bahati, Kaloleni, Shaurimoyo, Mbotela, and Makadara, just to mention a few. During the struggle for Kenya's independence, Eastlands became home to the young urban professionals who were taking leadership of the independence movement. Eastlands was home to many of our freedom fighters. Since then, more development has taken place and more neighborhoods have been developed, namely Buruburu, Kariobangi, Dandora, and Umoja, just to name a few. With increased growth of the city, very little infrastructural development has gone on east of the city. Eastlands today has remained primarily a blue-collar neighborhood. With increased rural to urban migration and lack of affordable housing, pressure for low-income housing has resulted in small informal settlements and new construction that flaunt all city and architectural building codes. Estates like Dandora, Umoja, Kariobangi and Kayole have become concrete jungles of unplanned high-rise buildings that tower precariously over the Eastlands skyline. With increased informal settlements and unplanned high-rise residential areas, this has brought about serious congestion in Eastlands. The type of housing in Eastlands attracts the middle to low income and the poor, because the housing in this part of the city is more affordable to the average mwananchi. For those who cannot afford formal housing, they move into the informal settlements that dot Eastlands landscapes, informal settlements like Mukuru, Kiambio, and Korogosho. Today, Eastlands is notorious for its high crime and drug abuse. Eastlands has become home to notorious gangs that terrorize the city. The high prevalence of HIV/AIDS is most felt in this part of the city. Social amenities have collapsed, and most of the public land has been grabbed by greedy land speculators. Eastlands has the largest population of the city of Nairobi. The majority of this population is youth. Nairobi's youth culture is heavily influenced by the Eastlander. Most trends and fads find their place of origins in the east side. Sheng, Kenya's street language, has its roots in the heart of Eastlands. The city hip-hop and urban culture is influenced by people like the Mau Mau Camp and Caliph Records, all who live out in this part of the city. Since there is very little offered in entertainment, young people spend their time in sporting activities. Many leading sports personalities in Nairobi hail from Eastlands and are our national exports, most notably Musa Otieno, the Harambee Stars captain. However, the plight of this large segment of the population is bleak. There is high unemployment, which has led to crime, drug abuse, and high rates of prostitution among the youth. There are several cases of unwanted teenage pregnancies that have resulted in unsafe abortions. Boredom, idleness, and inactivity among Eastlands youth as a result of neglect have resulted in a generation of young people growing up in Eastlands who are apathetic, discontent, and visionless. A classic recipe for chaos. Despite the bleak picture painted, Eastlands can be different. How? Consider the 24247 vision, the story of Mashariki Church. Imagine children well fed and having a safe place to play. Imagine parents happy that their children are being significantly engaged in community work. Imagine the youth of Eastlands engaging in serious, profitable commerce. Young men and women finding resources to invest in businesses that create gainful employment. Imagine the concrete jungles of the east side made to look better with trees planted all around them. Imagine the OCPD of Buruburu Police Division redeploying his officers to other parts of the country because of the reduced crime in the area. Imagine the gangs in this area turning in their weapons and exchanging them for tools to fix cars, tools for plumbing in homes, and computers that navigate the World Wide Web. Imagine parents working together to teach their children about the dangers of drugs. Imagine churches, mosques, and temples working together to teach good values to their children. Imagine clinics and hospitals in this area partnering with the religious institutions in the area, helping the community to care for the less fortunate and even those infected and affected by HIV/AIDS. Imagine what Eastlands would be. Imagine well-lit streets, no more cases of vandalism of our streetlights. Imagine Eastlands collectively lobbying City Hall to invest in the infrastructure of this end of town. Imagine the Eastlander reclaiming the public land from the grabbers and using it to put up libraries, playgrounds for their children, sports facilities to be exploited by the youth, and social halls for family entertainment. Imagine a different Eastlands. Imagine a revived Eastlands. Imagine a revitalized Eastlands. Imagine a reformed Eastlands.
This is the 24247 vision, the story of Mashariki Church, transforming communities worldwide with the gospel of Jesus Christ. Come and join us. Eastlands will never be the same.
Cabeça